you can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's been a whole week since we had an episode of Vsteg unpacking and decoding with Skullcap SaVant. So a lot has happened. We've been sending messages back and forth. I found a couple things and, of course, want to get his feedback on it. But, Katy Perry said they put the ass in Asstro-nots. I just can't believe all the ridiculousness that goes on. But I was feeling a little blue. Saw a mannequin, I believe, or maybe the girls just really have great skin. It's all shiny. A little fake door, all kinds of things. So follow us down the rabbit hole. We're going to unpack some of it and more and see what Skullcap has to say and what the Vsteg says and what the Zsteg says right after this. So jump in the live chat and let us know what you think. Leave a comment if you're watching this later, and we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back. Welcome back. We had a great episode last week. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. We got some great comments and a lot of fun with watching the market react. And of course, we had the wolf and all the steg around that. And that really resonated with a lot of people. So do you want to kind of do a quick wrap?
Well,
from there?
We're kind of connecting the dots from last week. If anybody didn't catch last week, so you should probably go watch it. I think Lisa's just titling these things Vsteg, or Vsteg with Skullcap SaVant.
I need to create a playlist if I haven't already. If I haven't already, I will go back and make sure that I have a playlist and have them all marked.
Yeah, I might need to name the show too at some point. It'd probably be a good idea. We'll have to come up with something.
Sure,
like just this little segment, like I don't know. But we're continuing on from that decode. And for those that didn't watch it, it's a pretty fun one to go down and show you really how the steg works. The investigation methodologies that steganography utilizes are numerous. It's all deciphering whatever the puzzle is, if you think about it that way. And we use gematria and numerology together. We use symbolism and iconography together. We use memetics to figure out what meaning might be hidden and conveyed with things, and all sorts of different ways to pick apart the divinatory process of
and just some good old intuition sometimes.
Usually the intuition at least is the guide to point. That's the funny thing. Like the only reason I knew to look further with that particular Wolverine steganography was because, like, as Cliff keeps putting into everybody's brains with this new word he keeps using, the qualia of it all made me go deeper, prompted me to. So if everybody didn't watch it, go watch it. But there were some key insights that we're going to start as a starting point off with this week's foray into it. And that mainly revolved around the date ranges that we were pulling out of them for things to be aware of, things that are coming up to be aware of. 4/18, therefore April 18th, was something we were looking at with a little bit of a discerning eye through all of those discoveries last week with Wolverine. We didn't get to the part that tied that whole let's say riddle. I like to say riddle with these things a lot because it's kind of what they are to me. But the riddle that we didn't get into the part of the riddle that went into the DNA, the dire wolves that were resurrected, quote unquote. There's a whole bunch more to go down into with that, but I want to focus today further on the time manipulation and what signifies that in the steganography. What are the key markers to look out for with that? Show you that we find those here. They're always part and parcel to the Oz riddle, because Oz is seemingly about controlling time and perception in the subject. This is what Oz does. He changes the time frame, the perception of things, such that your history and your context for things is not the way it should be. So this is always there are always heavy notes of clocks and time freezing and time ripping and time destroying and all of these things in stories that would signify Oz. And they're rampant in the Marvel universe. But Wolverine specifically, to go back to that, 4/18, that is only 2 days away. We also, I think we looked a couple weeks back on this show, didn't we, with the Rebecca Black, Katy Perry weirdness that was going on with the prosthetic breasts. Did we look at that together?
Yeah, we looked into all that. That was a couple weeks ago. That was probably
a couple weeks ago. But looking back to that, everyone, if you look back to that, we kind of left it hanging, and we had a question mark even for ourselves back then. We said, is it what's going to happen on Friday? Because Rebecca Black was synonymous with this music video in internet lore called "It's Friday," that her lawyer mother paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to have produced, and it's terrible, and her daughter's terrible, and it's just all around dumb. But the Rebecca Black meme is there as a caricature of like femininity with these overly exaggerated prosthetic breasts. Yeah. Remember, it also came alongside that fashion show where those same prosthetic breasts were actually a shirt or like a tank top type of an item that this Jewish fashion designer in France had cast into it. By the way, interviewed, totally admitting to the fact that he does black arts and dark arts and stuff, like
it's just
more. But so all of that was a few weeks back, and I want to tie it into this because that was, people might not remember that. That was over a month ago. It was the week leading up to Pi Day. Well, I thought something might be going on Pi Day, 3/14, and because those videos were leading up to. Now, I'm thinking 4/18, the week Katy Perry is back in the news, the Rebecca Black inclusion in all of the steganography from a month and a half ago. It's Friday. What's going to happen on Friday? 4/18 is this Friday. Blue Origin happened this week. There's a bunch of fakery afoot. And I wanted to start there just to give everybody kind of a baseline.
Did you see Ashton Forbes like 9 hours ago share the guy?
Ashton Forbes, the MH370 flight guy, right?
Right. He shares that this Kratios guy casually says we intentionally stagnated our technology in the 70s and now have the tech to manipulate space and time.
Yeah, I bet they do.
And there was another guy that he literally says, like, we did it on purpose and we now can manipulate space and time. We just went through like the time change, and we were talking about and that goes to the Oz thing. And
by the way, everyone, when we talk about time, I want to set right now, I don't think Lisa does either, but like hold firm to the belief that time travel is a thing that you can do. I actually discard that as a possibility, but I do think time itself can be fucked with in various ways. And that's what I am arguing. Just the perception of what we live in here.
Yeah, I think it's more about changing dimensions. Or
altering one's kind of sensory apparatuses so that one might even think they're in a different dimension. A psychedelic trip is a way to get there, right? So this is kind of what we talk about when we're talking about time manipulation, I think, right, Lisa? I don't think either one of us are saying or claiming that time travel is a thing.
I don't really know, to be honest, but I've been watching a couple of Sean Ryan interviews with these guys from Stargate, and it's a lot of like word salad when you get into that, where he's like, what do you mean what are you saying when you say it, or what do you like? So he's asking him for clarification on things, and he's like, yes, we've been able to do that for a long time, but yes, it's like Cliff has been saying, it's that's military, or yes, Roswell was real, but that was a military op, or there's more. I've been sending some stuff to IAM because there's more stuff coming out about that Malaysian flight, and he and I did shows on that. And then recently they were just saying this plane, and they're showing the plane flying and another Boeing plane issue, I believe in China, and that you can see the little lights flashing around it. It kind of looks like the plasma balls again.
Yeah.
It's happening all around the plane, and they're saying it's a rabbit.
They say it was a rabbit. That's interesting.
Literally a rabbit. And I'm like, come on, man.
Well, let's start here then, because we have disappearing objects. And I didn't know the Ashton Forbes thing was going to come into this with time manipulation, because, by the way, warping something, by the way, that would be a form of time manipulation to me. Warping something from this place in this time to another place in the very next second type of a thing, right? You manipulated time by eliminating the distance by which you made the object appear somewhere and appear somewhere else. Like, that's what Stargate is too, isn't it? It's proposed to be, is a portal, teleportation device, a doorway, you know. So these are the technologies that we're playing with. So I like this. Alongside the Malaysian plane, let's also consider there may be another craft that we can point to that I'm going to argue today may have been disappeared rather than actually crashed.
This is that video. I don't know if we want to listen to that.
Was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So this is another one of these talks, like another guy that came out this week, finally, as if it was brand new news, was Stephen Quast. This guy right here, right there. He's talking about Stephen Quast.
Yep.
Quast of Space Force was releasing what sounded like soft disclosure of energy sources during this press conference. Also, if you remember, President Trump did this a few days back.
This is what I mean to say about Stephen Quast's so-called press conference. Everybody keeps touting this as if it was yesterday. This happened in 2017.
Really?
He gave a talk at fucking Hillsdale College. I was talking about this on my channel back then, and only now are people paying attention to this talk that he gave.
That's what I keep hearing, stuff like this, and I'm like, this happened in 2017. This happened with the NDAA in 2017, but people are saying, oh no, there's just really...
It's pretty funny, in fact, because people use these little clips as gospel. Like people can post a clip on Twitter and put a caption to it, and no one questions the nature of the clip that was posted. Nobody goes, was this actually today that he, but this is for everybody that wants to watch this whole thing through. I guess it was 2019, not 2017.
Okay.
But it came out right before COVID. I just put the YouTube link in our little chat.
Okay.
It's an hour long, and it's amazing. It talks about quantum entangled phones without being a communications device. How do we talk to each other if we're galaxies away? Well, with quantum entanglement, we don't need relay delay. You know, it's always connected at the same instant.
He just said, I'm Michael Anton.
No, this is the head. This is like the headmaster of the school. It's a college. It's a forward thinking school. Small, but they always have people talking about, like, at Hillsdale College. It's wonderful. It'd be great to be a student there among most universities, because they're always pushing the boundaries of finance, technology, physics, and they're actually having people that are breaking new ground in this come and influence the student body, such that the student body rises up what they want to learn about and hopefully incites that in the faculty to teach them about that shit. So it's kind of cool.
They have a free online constitutional education program at Hillsdale.
Oh, do you really? I bet it's good.
I believe so. There's one that on Sean Ryan's show, they talk about it in like a commercial form, and I believe it's Hillsdale that advertises it. And then there's a picture of it looks like the signing of the Constitution above them. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's from them, because I looked into it
for a time, and it's presumed that I know something about this. Unfortunately.
So this says the urgent need for Space Force, but like you said, this is from 5 years ago.
And this is the clip everybody has going around. They've got one little 2-minute clip that I've seen most people tout, and it's the fact that he's talking about the technology they have with their transportation. They can get from here to France in 30 seconds if they want to.
Yeah,
right?
He says within an hour is the part that I saw.
Yeah, and it's probably way quicker than that. He just doesn't want to blow too many people's minds with this. He just says, the technology exists now are the words that he was using then. And these are words that we can investigate all sorts of tech. He talked, like I said, he mapping minerals on the moon. He's a smart guy, this guy.
Yeah.
But
3D manufacturing, it goes on and on. But
I don't remember him specifically mentioning time as a dimension by which they're playing with the technology side of this equipment that he claims.
Ocean is deep space. He said the ocean is deep space, and that's what I keep hearing from the remote viewer guys and the Stargate guys.
Yeah.
Is that like less than 80% of the ocean is mapped, and that while they have us looking at, Katy Perry going with her friends with no helmets and in bodycon suits floating around in a hot air balloon.
Yeah, with no G-force training, by the way. What the fuck? Like, I have no comprehension how people don't understand the training that's required to get shot at that many G-forces into the atmosphere and then return. Mm-hmm. Like it's a fucking theme park, right? Like, I'm pissed off sometimes when I see this stuff, because back in the 80s, even the general public couldn't have been fooled by this. Really? Like the AI video is silly. And not only that, the capsule's not burnt after it's landed. I mean, there are all sorts of inconsistencies I'm sure we're going to get to, but
also the little, what was it called? The little door, accidentally they pulled the door in and then they had to
the little plastic hinge that they've got on the back of it. It doesn't really even have a seal. It's the windows are arranged as in a pentagon pattern on the inside of the fucking thing,
It's really ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm sorry for being crass, everybody. This stuff gets me kind of riled up. Because
I kind of think everybody is.
Yeah. Anyway, so here are our components, everyone. We've got Katy Perry from a month ago, something about Friday. We've got last week's Wolverine decode that's still ongoing, but still showing us some components to look at with date ranges of January 1st to August 31st of this summer. And then we have our April 18th Friday facility. Lisa's here talking about missing technology, missing people, missing planes, using a certain technology that involves time. And we also had another a crash, or what I'm now deeming as a disappearance, the helicopter crash from last week, Lisa, the Siemens crash. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at this in the same exact light. It's funny that you brought Ashton Forbes up. I am now of the conclusion this was a taken craft, whether they flew the helicopter elsewhere and crashed a different helicopter and we don't know where the CEO went, or something else happened. There are some signifiers for me to suggest that it's a similar story.
Well, I think where a lot of these planes maybe...
Here's your rabbit, right away, right? This is what...
See these little flashes, how they move all around the plane?
Yes.
That's very similar to that Malaysian flight where, the Malaysian flight, the orbs were farther apart, but notice how it's like the front of the plane, the top of the plane.
Well, and also hold the phone a second. We may have not been able to see those orbs in the visible range. What we popularly know them as seeing them, quote unquote, is this infrared relief image that we see. That's the only time I've actually seen these orbs. So maybe they're not even responsive to our visual range and we only get to see an artifact like this, right? I wouldn't say that this rules out the possibility that the exact same orbs aren't doing what they're doing just because we can't see them clearly circling the plane,
Rabbit through the number 2.
That's what's most curious to me is the Vsteg with the rabbit.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
and at the
allow me to speculate here with the pieces that we've got, and I want to toss another one in that you gave me. I gave you the link just above the YouTube video in our chat that see the manual.com.
Okay.
This is the announcement of the watch that you incited to me. So Lisa brought this to my attention earlier last week. I wasn't looking here, but Lisa as my own form of qualia sometimes, because she sends me stuff that's just like spot on for the research components. But this if you notice, everyone, what we're talking about here, this might factor in somewhere, right? April 11th, 2025, there's an announcement that the Timex watch that JFK Jr. wore is about to make a comeback. They're about to sell it again. They're about to make a replica of this watch. It's just a $200 watch, not a big deal. But this is something that got us down a deeper rabbit hole, at least me. We're going to go down the rabbit hole together with all of these other components. Blue Origin, Katy Perry, last week's Wolverine decode and everything in hand. No pun intended. We're going to get there. You'll see why that's a pun later, I guess. But the Timex watch, for obvious reasons, time signifies time. We're talking about time. We're talking about manipulation of time. Clocks signify time. They symbolize time. So whenever I see specific beats of the V-steganography that are dealing with mind control in particular, or trying to throw our attention aside from something that's actually happened, there's usually this heavy overtone of time. And it makes me wonder if that's not why the reason we see that in these instances is because the manipulation itself from the level of the casting is such that they're trying to alter our perception of events, alter our perception of time, and therefore our understanding of things. The sorcerers that we don't really know the name of. Now, if you scroll down, Lisa, did you ever find out what the name of this thing was called? Because that's where the real journey began for me. There's a model it's called the Intrepid.
Oh, really?
It's the Timex Intrepid.
Okay.
So this was an interesting point where the research takes a turn. I started to look into things that were vessels called the Intrepid, because I knew like space. Here's where I thought it was going to be tied to like the space or the Blue Origins mission itself, because you have Enterprise, Intrepid, Discovery, Columbia. You have all these different naming conventions for the spacecraft that they've also shared with the naval vessels in the past, but that they also use in Star Trek and other types of fictions. And these are popularized items, and Intrepid's one of those, alongside the Enterprise and the Columbia and all these things. And sure enough, like there was an actual aircraft carrier in World War II that was called the Intrepid. And it's still around. It's a museum. It's parked on the Hudson River. And our boy in the helicopter flew right past it on his little tour. And what makes it weirder is if you go look at the Intrepid Museum, just do a Google search for it, Lisa, and then bring up the map view of it.
Okay.
So everybody can see where the heck this thing is.
Should I mention what I'm seeing on the watch while we're talking about the watch?
Sure, yeah. What do you see on the watch?
There's a green pusher that lights up the face. It's called Indiglow, and that has it has a Lumina hour marker. And the fact that the hour marker is at the 9 o'clock instead of the 12 o'clock is unusual.
So what's it, 10, right? Or
no, it says
like
at 9 o'clock. At the 9 o'clock, there's a green pusher. See over here?
Oh, that's where the green pusher. I thought you were saying the hour hand on the clock.
No,
yes,
I'm
the green pusher.
No,
so usually they're on the other side. So this is more like a right-handed watch almost, if that's the case. That is weird. That's notable, I guess.
And so that causes the thing to glow or light up, which is a little bit of Hulk calm. I don't know if that goes, or is that Oz?
What was the calm that just tripped? Like they tripped the green light.
Oh yeah, it was green light. They were doing green on the White House.
Yeah, last night Trump crossed the green light in Delaware. There was the green light from the Q comms that everybody was suggesting. This was from the 23rd of March.
Okay. Oh yeah. Wow. Red Castle, Green Castle. Okay.
Yeah, there's some more green stuff that it could be. I'm just throwing it out there, even for the audience to pick up if they see something.
The blue. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
See, and when I was blue, that's interesting that there's all this green on it, because
Emerald
When I
City of
saw
Oz.
the face of it, it looked like this outside ring was blue, not black. The one that
On the timepiece itself, on the Intrepid watch.
Yeah, this black ring of it that I saw, the picture that I saw was blue, not black. So I'm not.
I think they'll probably have different variants. Watch manufacturers usually have a couple of different colors you can buy.
Interesting. Okay.
So the Intrepid Museum, that's where we were at.
Museum. Okay. Oh, this is a battleship. Okay.
Yeah, it's an aircraft carrier from World War II.
Sure, this sounds good.
And it is a museum. And if you go to Maps View all the way up at the top and scrub to Maps View and zoom in on this thing so people can see where it's sitting. So there it is. You can zoom out and you can see kind of like a relative view of where this thing sits on the Hudson River. It sits right to the north of the Lincoln Tunnel. And much further up the river is the George Washington Bridge up to the north. You can go all the way up to the north of Manhattan Island, and there's the bridge up there. Okay, so there you go. There's the Intrepid Museum. Scroll all the way back in and look to the north. Look what it's situated next to.
Hell's Kitchen.
It's right next to Hell's Kitchen, right? And the streets that it sits on are interesting too. We'll get there.
45th and 47th, between 45th and 47th.
45th and 47th, 45 and 47. Yeah, so it's right there, right with the Donald Trump 45 to 47 meme.
Pier 88.
And it's right next to Pier 88. 88, everyone, is steganography for time itself because of the analemma, the path by which the sun and the moon both track in the sky. What that means is if I stood at one point the entire year and watched the sunset and the sunrise, it would, over the course of 1 year, make one full figure 8. The moon does the exact same thing, but on a shorter scale, on a 28-day cycle instead of a 365. So tracking of the moon and the sun together, 88, there's your time passage. So you have literally the Timex Intrepid next to the time pier, 88.
Double Infinity, Back to the Future.
Double Infinity, Back to the Future. All of these things matter with the 88. That's why 88's used in time rituals, though, everyone. If anybody ever wondered, it has to do with the analemma. So we have between 45th and 47th Street. Lisa picked up on that. So we've got some steganography indicating that we're probably looking here relative to the Trump thing, and that Lisa's intuition was probably responsive to us looking deeper at this Timex piece, because look where it leads. Sure enough, guess what the main exhibit on the Intrepid is? It is a moon landing exhibit, of all things. Okay, so there is, here, let me see if I can find you a picture of this little, this is so ridiculous.
Why would a moon landing be on the battleship?
Here's the Explore Apollo exhibit is what it's called. And the main artifact is this image that I'm putting into the
Master's voice. So there's all this stuff. I was watching the thing about the Stargate stuff, and Sean and Ryan, they were asking about using the basically the God voice or whatever, which is
it's like the voice to skull technology essentially is what they're talking about. Yep.
Well, then on Twitter today they had oh gosh, where is it? They were showing, here it is, in California.
Hi, this is Elon Musk. Welcome to Palo Alto, the home of Tesla engineering. You know, they say money can't buy happiness, and yeah, okay. I guess that's true. God knows I've tried. But it can buy a Cybertruck, and that's pretty sick, right? Right? Fuck, I'm so loud.
It's real.
Hi, this is Mark Zuckerberg, but real ones call me the Zuck. You know, it's normal to feel uncomfortable or even violated as we forcefully insert AI into every facet of your conscious experience.
There you go.
You don't need to worry, because there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. Anyway, see ya.
There's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it.
Except wear a Silverline beanie, motherfucker.
Oh my
Like to
god.
see you try getting this skull.
Right. Right. Oh, wow.
Well, hold just a second. I'm gonna remove that. There's one more.
Okay.
There's one more like photo I want to show you here. The cast of hands. Get this teed up and you keep going. So anyway, so the Apollo exhibit you saw right there in the link I sent you, one of these advertising photos of a guy looking at the
Yeah.
and
The voice, his master's voice. That's why I was like, oh,
his master's voice.
And look at those numbers in there. 20.
Yeah, I tried to make some significance out of those myself. I didn't have time to connect them to anything. I kind of wrote them down on the side. I haven't looked there yet. But kind of interesting that here we are. They used the broadcast. They're highlighting the broadcast technology for one in a moon landing exhibit.
Well, I don't
cares about the broadcast.
It's talking about the mind control of TV and the radio and all that. Like today, the new press secretary brings on this woman, and she's telling this heart-wrenching story about her daughter being violently murdered by MS-13, and the entire press corps just sits there.
Was this the special guest that I was hearing about earlier today? I forgot that that was the special guest. It was just a mother that was telling a
heart-wrenching story, and the press corps just sat there heartless, didn't ask a single question, nothing. They had nothing to respond. And that's where when the PSYOP is exposed, that their masters told them, don't acknowledge this story, don't have any interest. This is not the narrative. There was just a school shooting yesterday in Dallas, supposedly, but when the narrative did not fit the powers that be, because it was Black kids, the story gets dropped immediately and you don't hear about it. And so, once again, but I also think both of those examples are to show people and try to wake them up. Why aren't we hearing about it? Why did those stories get dropped? Why aren't we? Because media is corrupt. And that's where people have to wake up and stop listening to that.
So are you saying that maybe they put this woman in there just to show people how heartless they were?
How blatant it is. Yeah.
How blatantly heartless they are.
Their narrative, then you will not hear about it. How many stories go on that you hear nothing about, unless it is, unless it's something extreme that they want you to hear that plays into their narrative. When I was in foster care and adoption and hearing all these stories about, and all, I think everyone can say, we all have family or loved ones that have illnesses or things going on in their life. And it's like, well, nobody cares about our little story. But for some reason, this one story is so significant that it's all over TV and whatever. You know what I mean? Why is that one story so significant that it's being spread all over the nation? Well, because it feeds an agenda. And, they're now showing, this Black kid that supposedly killed the white kid, and supposedly the white kid's family is making apologies or saying it's okay, and the Black kid's family is making millions of dollars.
Yeah, they went and bought a $400,000 house or something like that. And
yeah, how do you morally?
This is the kid that stabbed the kid in the seat, I think, is what we're talking about now, right?
Yeah. I just, and I think, once again, I think that's a story. I think that's to try to wake.
Do you think there's another layer too that
for sure,
because it's just because it was a surprise? Maybe there's something to this too. Like, it shows the press's inability to think of anything relevant to ask on the spot. Like, they have to come with anything prepared also, right? Like, they didn't know who the guest was going to be, what the context of the guest was, what the story was.
Point.
And so we're being shown how heartless and how dumbfoundingly retarded they are by not being able to think about a question on the spot, which anybody should be able to do if you're a journalist, right?
Yeah. You would
think. Interesting stuff. Okay. And we're past tax day. You brought up there were a couple other things this week. The tax stuff was interesting, right?
Yeah, the tax stuff was interesting. The CIO, I believe, of the IRS stepped down or quit on April 14th, the day before.
Same day as the Blue Origin flight.
Yes, the same day as the Blue Origin flight. Then on April 15th, and I thought I heard 20,000, but you corrected me and said 22. The exact number was 22,000 IRS agents or employees accepted the buyout, Trump's buyout, to resign and take the early buyout. Why would they on the actual April 15th day? And then today, one of our friends that we know personally and lives in a little island off of Puerto Rico validated that the power went out in Puerto Rico because of an explosion. And what are the odds when that's the island that the private entity known that the IRS is based out of just happens, to have a blackout? What are the odds?
Yeah, it's all comms, isn't it? It seems to be. So
if you're going to have to restart a entity or reset an entity, might need a good excuse. They back in the day when they reset the census, they used fire and flood. Maybe they're going to use blackouts now. I don't know.
Well, I don't know exactly the method they're gonna cause it, but I think we're picking up the beats along the way that are going to aid us in looking at it accurately when it does occur. Because I think what we're building a case for most here, in a lot of ways, is giving context as the event stream unfolds to show what the casting mechanism is, at very least to remove people's fear from it. Because I don't really ascribe to use this stuff too often as a forecasting mechanism. Sometimes, like now, we're trying to figure it out as it comes, but there's really no stake in proving this or this or this is going to happen, unless, like I've done in the past in my work, if something really big is going to happen, I call it out. Something's happening this day, guys. Our mindsets are going to change, and this seems to be one of those things because there's so much wrapped around the moon landing. We even brought it up last week with the Wolverine stuff. Remember, this roundabout way got back to Artemis, everyone. Remember?
Think of the wolf howls at the moon.
Yes, the wolf howls. That's a good one too. Good. That's a good connotation also. But the Artemis moon missions from last year were supposed to be the first female missions to the moon. They were going to do all female crews. This week, we have the first all-female Blue Origin crew. There's a mirroring going on with this Artemis ritual that we're uncovering with whatever's going to happen on May 18th. Remember, May 18th was the date in the Fly Me to the Moon movie in Apple TV that Project Artemis was set to commence by. And Lisa pointed out last week that Trump's merit-based program also goes in on May 18th.
Well, I think it's the 21st.
It's the 21st.
I believe it's the 21st because it was January 21st, and then it's 120 days. So whatever 120 days past January 21st. Because I had originally thought it was going to be after Easter weekend, April 21st, but I miscounted. And then Janine had, when we were in Canada, she had said 5 weeks said 5 weeks, days, months is what she actually said. And then I counted and I was like, oh, that lines up with where I thought. I was thinking April 21st, and coming out of Easter, I'm like, wow, and then she said a tower card and she was talking about financial collapse. That. And so to me, that made so much sense. Oh, and then I thought that lined up so I was anticipating something.
Well, I think that we might still get something then too, related to it in that May timeframe. But we are still looking at this Easter timeframe too, the 18th. It's Good Friday on the 18th. Yeah. So this is all Easter stuff we're talking about with the rabbit in the sky,
Monday, what do they call it? Monday?
Moon Day. It's called Moon Day.
But there's like a Monday religious thing after the Easter. The day after Easter is something about Monday.
Really?
The Monday after. And I'm sorry.
It's like a ritual, something that happens too?
Yeah. And this year it's significant that the Sunday is the same for, is it Greek Orthodox and Christians? That it's, I can't remember. There's two religions that are celebrating this Easter as the same.
Oh, because they usually separate on disparate days, and this year, they, for whatever reason, they align.
Like to follow on the same Sunday this year.
Okay, so Orthodoxy, which is mainly Eastern European, and Protestant Christian calendar, like we would say here, they're aligning for the same Easter.
Aligning for the same Easter this year, so that's, I think, significant. So I don't know.
Well, let's keep digging then. So let's go back to the where did we leave? The Intrepid lobby
thing. Yeah. Where was I? You sent me a picture of that. And
maybe we can give ourselves some more answers here.
Bounced off. Yes. Here, let me share with that again. Present, share screen. The lobby went to the moon. Okay.
So
we'll return.
See all the moon stuff to the left of it. And remember, everybody, try and envision you're inside of an aircraft carrier. It's big in here. There's a lot of decks and floors. There's plenty of room for a museum if you wanted to put one. And this is a pretty extensive one, apparently. This museum, there are a lot of moon museums, but remember, also tied to the Wolverine thing last week. Significant because Wolverine and Deadpool came out on the 55-year anniversary of the moon landing that same week. With the Twisters movie, all these Oz-based movies came out the same week. It's the 55-year anniversary of the moon landing, so-called last year. So Artemis, Wolverine, Oz, time. Time is an artifact of Oz. And all of these other things that the Vsteg is showing us are unfolding, okay? So this was the Apollo mission. Remember, in Greek lore, Artemis and Apollo are twins. They're the twin brother and sister of Zeus. And this is by the way, I guess we don't have to show the photo. Here it is right in the article. This is kind of the highlight of the exhibit. The cast hands.
Looks like
all of the astronauts. So there's huge Vsteg with fives and hands themselves, because hands are the casting mechanisms that we have to bring creative things into potential. It's all of the digits are there for the number of man. We have 5 limbs, 5 senses, five fingers on each digit or on each limb. And you also have, 5 feet in a pace. 5 is the number of man. This is why Vsteg matters to the template of us, everyone, because my argument has always been, and only seems to persist and prove itself to be the case this way, is that when these things are significantly in play, it seems they're blanketing our perception, our senses mainly, and the essence of who we are as humans to thinking a different way. So if you go back to the Wolverine comic, this is interesting, because the Wolverine comic and that little 4-part miniseries that I outlined was something that they were fighting the hand. This is the group of individuals that constitute the Yakuza. That's what they call themselves. Like their little soldier group, they call themselves the Hand. They're badass kind of mafia contractors. They were not really contractors. They're in the mafia. They're in the Yakuza, and they're called the Hand. And they're badass mofos. Wolverine's fighting these guys in episode 3 of his little comic. And wouldn't you believe that comic, episode 3, came out day and date that this museum opened. May 3rd, 1982, this museum opened the same day as that 3rd installment for that comic. It's called Loss. Remember, we had the first one called I'm Wolverine. The second one was called Debt and Obligation. The other, hold on, somebody's calling me, just a sec.
Okay. To me, these really look like, they remind me of the Twin Towers. And right now, like a lot of big accounts, big channels are talking about, like Tucker Carlson, Danny Bongino are calling out that the CIA had to do with taking down the Twin Towers. They're having these,
and then they're calling that up too, aren't they? Yeah, that's coming up the last couple of days.
Whistleblowers come out. These architects and all these whistleblowers come out and talk about it. And so it's interesting that these look like Twin Towers, these hands. And then Uncle Cliff was showing that that these people in Israel dress up as Twin Towers during Purim.
Yeah, I saw that too. Those are old photos. I saw those back in high school. That some of that stuff, by the way, Lisa, I don't know if I was in high school when E-Bombs World was out. E-Bombs World was like original YouTube. And it was more like the dark web than YouTube was. There wasn't any filtering. Just what was up. And like some gruesome stuff you'd find on there. You'd find motorcycle accidents that would maim people in half. You'd find just all sorts of stuff. And one of those things were like the Iraqi beheading videos. I would watch those. They would come on and they would behead the soldiers and stuff. And it was like some of your first time in your life where you're like, oh my God, the world is crazy, you know?
But now they're saying that could have been CIA.
What's that?
Now they're saying that could have been CIA Hollywood.
Well, it could have been, but some of the stuff that you'd find on there was straight up like confirmatory of a lot of these 9/11 type things that are happening. You'd find videos of on E-Bombs World. I remember I'd first start to find a little broadcast from Israel where they were like on like a children's puppet show. They would like stab Jesus caricatures, and it would be a kids show, and it would be all happy and happy-go-lucky and all the sounds and stuff, all that kind of shit that you can associate with like Sesame Street or whatever, and really dark. And a lot of this 9/11 glorification started to come up on E-Bombs World. And that's really what gave me the confirmation when I was like searching for whatever why I was suspicious of this event, because I was just like pissed about it. Like none of the teachers were looking into it or letting us look into it. We were just supposed to grieve, and I'm not supposed to ask anything. And I remember there was a strictly an exercise where we were learning, a commentary course in like freshman year of high school. And the prompt was just to come up with like a short phrase to demonstrate that you know how to make a commentary statement versus like a declarative statement. And so I got up into the class and I said, the planes crashed. Maybe. That was all I said. Oh my God, I got in so much trouble. So much goddamn trouble. Like it was, the class was like, oh, like one of those kind of things. But this is
a critical thinker, so you get punished for that. I had in theater, we had to decorate our folders or whatever for part of our marketing, series or whatever, and we had to come up with a product. And so I did planting propaganda, and I had a plant with all this stuff on it, and I got points off for being political and
nice,
disruptive to class. Yeah.
I have some of my papers still, and I read them when I pull out those boxes. I was such a rebel. I would do the assignment within the letter of the law and just like twist the topic. Anyway, I love that you did that stuff too. We can swap war stories later, but so even back to this, back to the hands, back to the hand, back to the Yakuza, and the casting of these hands. It's interesting that they're casts of hands. Remember that Apollo 11 was on a Saturn V rocket, Saturn V. And remember, Apollo 11 is the backing of all the silver coinage that we're looking at here too, everyone. Then the 55-year anniversary since all of this stuff has something huge related to the silver suppression. So now these are if these points aren't interesting enough, let's go to one of the graphics that I've got. Go down to the little map graphic that I shared with you.
Okay.
It's not named. It's like AI2 HTML graphic. It's just a little map you can see. It's the only one that resembles a map.
A map.
And it's a map of New York and the Hudson River.
Okay.
There you go. So do you see the little circle?
Yes.
That's where the crash of this Siemens executive happened. Everybody remembers last week. It's all been memory hold by this point because so much shit happens on a weekly basis that no one remembers the stuff that happened the week before. But the Siemens CEO of all the rail and mobility crashed in the Hudson River last week. Everybody saw this video. Everybody was horrified. Everybody said, oh man. There's some really weird stuff just detail-wise. This is what you see as the flight path. It took off from the little square right at the south end of the island, right next to where the World Trade Centers used to be. And it circled the island where the Statue of Liberty is at, and then went all the way up the Hudson River and curled around the Washington Bridge and then came back and then crashed. This isn't what we were actually told in the news reports. We were just told it took off right away, went around the Statue of Liberty and fell and crashed. So there's inconsistency number one. Inconsistency number two I found with this thing is somehow what we have is a photograph of the whole family intact about to board the fucking helicopter.
Yeah.
Whose device did they get this off of? Why do we have this picture? Of all, it's across all of the news outlets. It shows all of the family members, all five of them with little Freemason parachutes. They're all like little Freemason aprons. They're all wearing their flotation device, rather, not their parachutes, their flotation device. They're all wearing them on their person. They're not in the aircraft for some reason. Almost to signal as, oh yeah, we're going to use these. Like it's very odd that the flotation devices are in the photo at all because they're taking a photo in front of the craft. The call sign of the tail of the craft they're about to board is clearly indicated on there. N216. 216, by the way, is 6 times 6 times 6. There's your 666. And N is 14. There's your Oz. So you have 14 and 666 in the numerology of that photograph that most of the news outlets are showing. And even if it came off of one of their phones, let's just say the argument is that it came off of one of their phones. Why isn't that phone in an evidence locker somewhere? Why do we have access to the contents hours after the crash? Now, the weirdest thing that I don't see anybody necessarily...
Her hand over his mouth? Oh no, it's a scarf. I was trying to see.
Oh, the little boy. Yeah, the scarf.
The child's mouth. But I was like, what in the world?
So I'm going to put up one more image here also. So I'm going to delete this one. So everybody saw that trail. I'll bring that one back in a second because I had to make room for another one. Okay. Check this one out that I just put up.
Oh,
so this is a comparison image of the photo where I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the photo that I'm saying. N216. Here are their little Freemason, little Gmail. Everybody knows the Gmail logo by now. It's a little Freemason apron. So here are their little Freemason aprons that they're all wearing. We already had the 33, very clearly apparent. 3 children, 3 adults die. We still don't know the identity of whoever the pilot was. They've never released the identity of the pilot. And this helicopter on the right was the one they pulled out the wreckage for. It's not the same fucking aircraft.
MH on it.
It's not the same paint scheme even. It's not even the same craft variety. So what I'm wondering is a lot of things. So I'll remove this back. I'll bring back up the map. Flight path and penis shape, like the Evergreen stuck container ship. The Evergreen stuck container ship came up to my mind the other day too. All these container ships with, it was called the Never Given, I think, is what that one was. Weird name for a boat, the Never Given, like no fucks never given, or but then the whole bridge collapse in Baltimore. There's a lot of significance to this, but if you go back to the image that I pulled up there, Lisa, with the flight path, I'll just show it one more time.
Okay.
The Washington Bridge is significant to my work, very significant to my work from last year. We don't have time to get into it now, but it has a lot to do with the age of Leo, the coming of the goddess that we're supposed to be harnessing by building and lofting that goddess up, not putting it down on our thumb. And, you know, Katy Perry, at least right now, if we're going to bring her back in, kind of represents the opposite of what would be a healthy expression of goddess energy. That's what I think these prosthetic breasts, the bastardization of like a man displaying himself with these in a fashion show, you know, on the same day that the Rebecca Black thing happened and the Friday. So what we have is this Washington Bridge being significant, and you're going to have to take my word for it until we can dig into it past whatever decode we've got time for today. And it turns around and crashes here. My question is what if it just kept going? Where is that craft now? Similar to MH370. They said it crashed. They pulled out wreckage, but it went somewhere. I'm not even saying this helicopter got a portal taken around it. What if the helicopter pilot himself even just commandeered the family and took them somewhere? I don't think these people are accounted for yet. They haven't pulled bodies out. What's that?
Would it thread the needle? Like if you look at the loop at the bottom, and if you projected the trajectory, if you continued forward, does it thread the needle? Like, because that's the, right about that time, weren't they saying that like France was wanting the satanic Lucifer back or whatever?
Well, there's something further to this that I don't think involves the husband. Look into who the wife is, and we're going to find something entirely different. So the wife is a really interesting character here, and no one's looking into her. And I think there are more questions than I have answers for you, but let me explain some things. Okay. So she is the heiress of a unique position inside the football club Barcelona, FC Barcelona. They won the World Cup in 2009, 2011, 2015. They were a very good team. They were like the dominant team. Mm-hmm. And she is the granddaughter and great-granddaughter of the club's original presidency. It's like the club was run by her family through all this time. There's a lot of interesting turmoil also going on within the ownership of who the hell owns FC Barcelona now. They don't know if the club is going to even persist. It's in dire straits financially. There's all of this going on with FC Barcelona. Then you cut to Trump, who has a golden FIFA statue in his office, and he's had it there for an entire month.
And he has Ohio football come to, and he says, we're going to go to the Oval Office. Then he has Navy. And
this happened the same day that the FIFA team came to the Oval Office. There's some Vsteg here with FIFA itself, right? We won't get there this week. I'm laying that there with everybody because I'm still doing some research on this topic, but it's the wife that I think is the point of interest more than the husband in a certain way. I'm not saying that the husband's not a key here, but there's a question mark around the wife. The other things that are interesting that we'll have to look further into is why did it pass directly by the Intrepid? It went right back past the Intrepid Museum on its flight path. And at the crash site itself, maybe the most interesting thing is the statue that it crashed in front of. If you go to the images I also sent you, the C93C, the one that starts with C93C.
Oh my.
There's just a big white statue with a woman saying a shh. Right next to where the crash, right next to where the helicopter fell into the water. This is a statue called Water's Soul. And still more to find out about this too. But the iconography of it kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So we have some major manipulation going on here this week. Secrets being displayed, secrets being prominently told that they're secrets to us, like this. Oh, don't ask any questions around the crash. And the Intrepid Museum having something to do with this whole time ritual, as you pointed out, just by sharing with me that I wasn't even looking there. That's so funny about that little puzzle piece is look what it unlocked.
Wow.
Look at all the little pieces that connected to these puzzles, just all of these disparate events because of JFK's watch launching again, the Timex Intrepid.
That's crazy.
So what do you think is going to happen? There's my summary so far.
Yeah, I think we are. And this, in Cliff's data, when the planes started falling, I believe from my memory, we were in the Secrets Revealed, all of that. And it's wild to see that, like, there's so many pieces. Tucker's talking about 9/11 and CIA being involved with that. The CIA's own documents are saying that they are connected to Israel. Like, then we're seeing, now not just Tucker's channel. Then did you see, like, Alex Jones did some crazy thing about how he's going to do before I jump into that, there was, hold on. Share screen. This one, Thomas Massey just exposed lobbyist tactic.
The lobbyists can give you the money and you buy the food.
And that's common practice?
Yeah. Like, it's a campaign expense at that point. Don't shoot the messenger. and that's just, that's the way it works. I'm giving you an example of a rule that doesn't really work.
But the lobbyist,
you can put rules in place.
Tons of money, and he can buy the food.
What are some other things? The lobbyists, when they give you money, ostensibly, they're not giving you their money. They're not even giving you their corporation's money. They are giving you money from employees of that corporation who have pooled their money into, like, a club or a group, and they've been persuaded maybe by their management that they should give a little back to this because their job would be more secure if they supported their lobbying efforts in DC. So the employee, you're actually ostensibly, it's money from employees of that company that's being channeled to the lobbyists that's then given to you. And the lobbyists are supposedly representing the employees' interests. That's the workaround they have to keep corporations from giving members of Congress money directly.
All these workarounds.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
All these secrets.
All these denotation workarounds. And that's all they are, is denotation workarounds, so they can change the definition of what they're fucking doing.
And then all the stuff that's coming out through Doge, all the stuff, the money printers, all the things that we're seeing, and meanwhile, we all feel, that we're being, forced to, submit documents to a 3-letter agency with threat of losing our homes or being imprisoned. Tell me that's not human trafficking or slavery in itself, and we're being forced to put our energy into a system and use these Fed notes to transact with, because if we don't, then, we can be accused of, horrible things that I don't even want to say, and look at that. I'm having to censor myself. And we're supposed to live in a land where we think we're free. We think, the kids were talking at school about, reading these books about slavery, and, that would be terrible if you were a slave. We don't even know. The worst part is that they've created a system.
Well, and what's also funny is Harriet Tubman. These are really accurate accounts by all the people who've written about it. And these I can go pull off the shelf all the accounts I've got of the difficulty of the Underground Railroad movement to rally support for its existence to matter at all. Meaning Harriet Tubman, people like her that were going around to would be like saviors of the slaves. They'd show up to, like, a plantation and raise a ruckus and tell these people that they're free. And most plantation workers wouldn't go anywhere because they say, what are you talking about? Like, I have everything provided for me here. I have housing. I have meaningful work. I actually don't work all hours of the day. I'm done by 3 o'clock, probably, they're saying. And then I raise my kids. I'm safe. I don't want to go anywhere.
Right.
What kind of guarantee that you have that my life will be any better by you stripping me from my environment here? And so what really is freedom?
Yeah.
A lot of these slaves, so-called, didn't even see themselves as slaves. That's what's so hilarious about some of this, is that they saw themselves as workers. So we are just like that.
Yeah.
We don't know that we're slaves. We oh, why would I want to leave this job? It seems great, like I get so many benefits. I got so much time off. The break room has Cheerios and Fruit Loops. Why would I want to go anywhere?
Yeah. No, I watched a little video scroll by on Twitter, and this girl was really pissed off because she said that Social Security, I guess after Elon had come in and whatever, and she said they were going to make her sell her Range Rover. And she's like, I was going to lose my benefits because I had an asset more than XYZ. And she said, so I was going to have to then I would have to go get a job and go to work if I wanted to keep my car, or I could sell my car and use that money to pay for my kids and groceries and my rent. But right now, then otherwise I was going to lose my free housing, all my free food stamps, all my kids' benefits, all this, just because I had the car of my dreams that I saved up for. I saved up to buy that car, and it is mine. And I was just like, the entitlement is just incredible. You saved up from a system that you never paid into.
Mm-hmm.
So just if all the benefits went away, then we wouldn't need borders. If you went, then that's where I'm so excited about the merit system thing, because if you earned it, if you created value, then that's awesome. And if we had peer-to-peer, Reggie's patents, peer-to-peer free market trading system, exchanging value in a trustless system, you know what? Then we wouldn't be getting screwed with contracts.
Well, one of the things that the banksters don't want anybody to find out is when we actually have free markets, you know what one of the effects is? People self-segregate. There's none of this, oh, segregation is it's a sin against humanity, or we self-segregate ourselves into communities, into cultures. When there's a free market, you find your people. In other words, you tribalize your environment. It happens to be built a lot around racial profiling of ourselves. It just does, but it's not unhealthy to do that necessarily either. You see it even in Phoenix without some of this stuff. You see Camelback Road, and you'll see dense Hispanic population south of it, just where they are. And then north of it, all of a sudden you're in these rich yuppie neighborhoods. It's inexplicable, right? But you go all these city grids around the United States, and you just do these dot plots and look at where the cultural clusters are. And we already kind of do this to a large extent. And we aren't supposed to be all the same culture. We're not all supposed to have all the same ideas. We're not all supposed to have all the same inventive strategies, all this kind of stuff. But we're not allowed to get there. And that's not truly free either. What would be truly free is just free markets, because then all of our behaviors would follow suit.
Right. The best ideas would rise to the top.
Yeah, and that would be so terrible, wouldn't it? If really smart people all started living together, give me a break. Yeah. We're gonna turn into South Africa, if you have that mentality, unfortunately.
It's dangerous stuff. Anyway, it's all very interesting, but I like unpacking it. I'm looking forward to see, there's the old video where I believe it's the Fed had a meeting where they were talking about the how they really needed a 3-day weekend to transition to a new system or to shut down the dollar or whatever once the, this experiment of the US dollar has run its course. And so I believe Monday is a holiday. After
Well,
the
whether it's a holiday or not, maybe we've got the whole 3-day moniker wrong. Maybe the 3-day weekend is just like the 3-day resurrection, right? Because it's Easter.
Actually, it's a 4-day weekend because Good Friday is Friday, and then Easter Monday is the 21st. Oh, and the 22nd is Earth Day. That's so wonderful. So I believe people are off on Friday and Monday for at least federal holidays. So we'll see what happens with all of that and the markets and all that stuff.
It's not very convenient for them that Hitler's birthday falls on Easter this year either.
And that's 420, which that seems to be a calm all the time.
Yeah.
Constantly a calm. And that's more locker room humor. It's the boys club. So,
42nd Street right next. We're not going to get into that today, but there's another significant building on 42nd Street there on Manhattan Island too.
There we go.
So
there we go. I love it all. I think it's fun to watch and try to unpack it. To me, it is. It's a puzzle. It's great exercise for your brain. And
I hope everyone in the audience does feel like it's that way. You don't build a puzzle all in one sitting. You build the border, and then you build different clusters and sections, and it starts to come into view. And sometimes now there's a relief of a piece, and you're like, oh, I know the piece that fits there. When I find it, I know I'm going to lock it into place. And so I truly hope it's a good metaphor for people where they're not left wanting after some of these, because I do find it like Lisa and I are kind of like constructing the puzzle for you the best we can as we get the pieces. And
and sharing, Jim's bringing in another piece of the puzzle. Oklahoma City and Waco were both 419. Bill Clinton is supposedly coming. What a slap in the face, because most likely I've heard that the reason Oklahoma City happened was because they were getting rid of Hillary's documents that were kept.
Yeah, the Whitewater scandal. She was involved, and it was all documented there.
Yeah, so
allegedly.
There was a call for General Flynn. Another big piece of news called for was it investigation or was it arrests of it's like he literally said treason and mentioned Brennan.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah. He was all but exonerated by some piece of evidence that came out, like claiming like something came out like documentation wise that exonerated any wrongdoing he had with the Russia shit, because of it showed what the plan was. I forgot what that was, but that was this week too.
Let's see, because I was hoping he was going to be the secret person to join.
Not move forward. I don't care.
Oh, the secret press conference person.
How much Trump, adjusts the economy, and he will, but we cannot move forward unless people are held accountable. And I mean, very, very senior people, and they all know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about, and I've said it many times. It's the start with Obama and work your way down, right? I mean, and maybe you don't throw a former president into prison, but maybe you do. Maybe maybe somebody says, well, who directed you, John Brennan? Who directed you, Jim Clapper? Who directed you, Susan Rice? Under oath, under the lights, and with the threat of prison. Okay. And so who directed you? Well, if they say nothing, okay, then that's fine. Then you're going to go to prison. You're going to prison. You're going to prison for treason. Okay. Treason. That's a very strong word.
Punishment for
treason. It's a very strong word. And like all these pardons, right? These pardons, the only thing that can't overcome a pardon is treason, is the commitment of treason. I mean, I get called a traitor all the time. And I say, well, wait a second. And, So if I'm a traitor, why am I walking the streets, right? If I committed treason, why am I walking the streets? I was never charged with that. They dismissed my case because they lied, right? And so, you think Mueller and Wiseman, Andrew Wiseman, who was the deputy to Mueller, would have let me go had I was a traitor or that I committed treason? The treason was committed against me as not just Mike Flynn, an Army general, but the national security advisor by a duly elected president of the United States. The income or the outgoing administration under Barack H. Obama committed treason. They committed a conspiracy to undermine a duly elected president, and it hasn't stopped.
There we go. That feeds my soul. So
Maybe this whole Michelle Obama, Michael Obama, divorcing Barack Obama rumor will come out, and then they'll depose Michelle / Michael, because now they're no longer married, and now you can testify, and who knows what the hell's gonna happen. It's gonna be fun.
I'm ready for them to roll the credits is all I gotta say. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you everybody in the live chat for joining us. I appreciate it. If you're watching this later, please leave a comment, like, and share. Give some people some hope. I had a great lady at school yesterday pull me aside, and she said, and she's more and more people are waking up, so it's really encouraging. She said, last year at school, I want to tell you, like, you really encouraged me, because when I saw all these people on TV, they were showing, the fake media was trying to scare people, and they were showing these military age men coming in. And she said, and you told me, no, that this could just be Trump's plan of bringing in other countries. He's already made deals with them, and he's bringing in military to infiltrate and to do a huge deportation. And those may just be the other countries' men coming in to haul them all out. And she said, I see it now. And you gave me a lot of hope and encouraged me. And so I think that's what we can do, is encourage each other, and know that we're getting through this, and that no one's coming to save you, that we're all here to encourage each other and save ourselves. And we have to do the work, and we have to look and see and unpack the puzzles together. So
not even Jesus promised salvation, everyone. Retranslate the Bible. He said, I can show you the way to salvation. There's no salvation is never promised. You got to do that yourself. So we can show you the way, but this is what Lisa's saying. I think it's good. People have to take action, like her friend there at school, and actually take the thoughts into consideration instead of in one ear out the other,
dig into it yourself. So we bring little tidbits here and there, but you do the research and you make the decision yourself. So, all right. Love to you all. We will see you next time. Take care.
Bye, everyone.